Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast on this 25th of October 2020 as we discuss episode 4, Hamsterdam of The Wire season 3. As always, I'm joined by one Robert Sapp. We are back discussing The Wire. Sapp, how you doing?
Doing very well, sir. Hope everybody's staying safe, staying dry.
Yeah, ugly day outside, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Temperature and then, the rain after a string of days of beautiful weather, especially on Friday. Well, yesterday was nice too, but Friday was just,
Yeah, yesterday was really nice.
yeah. So, got, it's fall. It's about to be November. I mean, we've been,
Yep.
it
We
should,
here.
should be getting cooler at this point.
We here. We definitely are.
So, episode 4, Hamsterdam. We see Bunny Colvin try to invoke his ideal, his change of what the war on drugs should look like. Um, this episode was directed by one Ernest Dickerson, who's been around for a long time. Um, Vulture had it ranked all time 31, pretty good. 31 all time out of 60 Wire episodes. Epigraph: Why you gotta go and fuck with the program? Fruit, who is of course a soldier of one of the soldiers of Marlowe's gang. Themes. I had a theme just simply the truth hurts. A lot of characters, a lot of situations had a difficult time with dealing with their truths and their realities of their particular situations. Opening scene, we see the police, Colvin and Carcetti all at the same event at a community meeting. As Colvin Carcetti, as Carcetti and Marla Daniels look on, Colvin just comes out. You got a bunch of just angry community members of the community who just see no end to, how they're being affected by the drug war, and you have a number of neighbors just complaining about drug dealers selling on their porches in their neighborhoods, and basically they're calling out the police for their bullshit. But before Colvin gets on, you have one police officer, and you've been in these meetings before where the person who's trying to run a meeting just has no chance amongst the crowd who are like a bunch of lions, or sharks who sniff out. Like that first officer just had no chance. He's trying to he has his charts and graphs, and he just had no chance. And Colvin gets up there. Colvin just basically just comes out and just says, "Look, we can go. I can sit up here and sell you a bill of goods. I'm not. Those boys are still going to be on their corners. You're going to be in your houses. I'm not going to just, I'm not just going to give you some bullshit." He didn't say that, but that's basically what his premise was. And then you see Carcetti speaking briefly with Marla Daniels. They get an introduction. We find out that Marla Daniels is of course running against Unetta Perkins, and then Carcetti, Colvin's second in charge, second in command, Lieutenant Mello basically says, have you lost your mind? Um, have you lost your mind? But Colvin is like, look, it can't. This can no longer be a lie. What was your thoughts on this layered opening scene where it was seemingly a lot going on besides Colvin with Carcetti and introduction of Carcetti and Daniels meeting?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, like two things that you said earlier actually make a lot of sense in terms of like for this episode. One about theme. The thing that I would add on to this is like this is the theme of like reform. This is where kind of the reform characters actually start really moving as pieces on the board. So that's number one. And then number two, you said this was what, 31?
31
of that Vulture ranked, and I like that because as I was watching this episode, the thing that just kept hitting me over and over again is just that this was such a well balanced episode, like well balanced to the point. I was trying to think of any other television show episode that I've watched in any other series, particularly any of the prestige TV series, that it was this balanced and I just couldn't come up with one. And so I think to your point, like that's what was going on in this opening scene. The reason why it felt so meaty is because it wasn't specifically what was going on. It's what was going on and what it was saying for the deeper themes of the show.
Yeah, no, there's no question about that. We see Cuddy working out. Probably was nothing. It was a quick scene, but that I think the fact it wasn't a big deal that he's working out. I just think the fact that he was him following the opening scene was not by accident. Showing Colvin then Cuddy was no coincidence. I think they did that for a reason. Even though this scene was him just working out, and basically was like 30 seconds to a minute. So you see that. So that definitely would fall in the category of a setup for it was going to be a heavy Cuddy scene. Then we see Bubbles, McNulty, and Kima snacking, eating some on some McDonald's, which made me hungry with those hash browns. McDonald's hash browns is just insane how good McDonald's hash browns are. So they are negotiating Bubbles' pay rate. Bubbles, they want information from Bubbles in regards to what the Barksdales have done since the towers went down, and how are they getting along with the other crews, and how all that is going down. So Bubbles negotiates like $5 an hour. Then he tells story. Then they ask about Johnny, and he says Johnny is just the laziest white boy in two shoes, and we know Johnny doesn't want to work with the cops anyway. They've made that clear over the course of his time on the show. So Bubbles is back in business with McNulty and Kima as they are on try to find some more information about just the fallout of the Franklin Towers, and how that has affected the drug trade in West Baltimore. What were your thoughts on this theme? Not on this theme, but on
set up.
About it. Cuddy, looking at Cuddy is going to work. He's in the truck. He's in the back of the truck going to work, as he looks over at some younger. We don't know what they. I can't assume that they were dealers, but I guess they were supposed to be dealers. Range Rover. You can tell Cuddy in that scene. Again, it's a brief scene as he stares. It was two parts of that scene. Number one, him staring at those two younger guys in that Range Rover, in that nice Range Rover, while he's in the back of a truck with about 10 people. And then he has a stare to his supervisor, who peeps what he's looking at and sees what he's looking at. That would be a big part of a scene that we'll see later on. Tell Cuddy had that itch. That began the itch for Cuddy. We'll see how that plays out in this episode. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, same.
So we see Bunk, Herbert, and Carver. Bunk, of course, is attempting to chase down Dozeman's gun. Of course, up to this point, he has had no luck whatsoever. Keeps continuously running into walls and no leads on that. So he goes and he rounds up a number of guys along with Bunk, with the help of Herc and Carver, out of the wagon, and basically gives them his card and asks them about Peanut, and basically, again, he knows that this is probably a dead end as well. He gets nothing from these kids. Of course, these kids are not going to cooperate with Bunk, based on him saying, one hand washes the other, and I can make any charge disappear. So he gives him that bullshit from that standpoint. And then afterwards, when all the guys go back into the wagon, he had to try something. As everybody in that scene, Herc, Carver, and Bunk knew that was probably a meaningless effort at trying to flip these boys to find that gun. What were your thoughts?
This setup.
You see Bubbles. Bubbles is now, on the trail. He's down in these corners, looking, asking people, or asking not drug dealers, but asking people who are buying drugs about who are running the corners. He buys from a couple of dealers. He he buys drugs and he's buying drugs and asking questions. He also gets Marlowe's plate number as he sits down on the stoop. Gets Marlowe's plate number while he was at it. So Bubbles immediately paying off big time dividends, for Kima and McNulty. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, great way to put Bubbles back on the board in this. This is this is why I can get critical when I'm saying like what they did with McNulty in season 2, because this is a way that moves the character back onto the board. Bubbles has been out, they're putting him back on the board, but in a way that completely 100% makes sense and feels natural. And so it moves the story along, moves the character along, and makes sense to the story. Perfect writing.
Absolutely, no question about it. It also gives you a sense of, and I think they've done this before throughout the course of the series, of what could have been for Bubbles if things had broken right in his life. Like this guy, we know he's a drug addict, but Bubbles has a lot of talent. He has a lot of street smarts, and he a focused Bubbles, can be a productive person. So I think it gives you a sense of that as well as in regards to his character, when he's focused on something, trying to obtain a goal. Um, so you had the detail, McNulty and Freeman. This was one of the big scenes of the episode. So McNulty, everybody's doing a case that they don't want to do. This Kentel Williams case. Everybody knows that this case, compared to what they should be doing, being on Stringer and Prop Joe, everybody knows it's bullshit. Everybody knows that Kentel Williamson is not a big is a barely a pawn on the chessboard, if that. But you have, a faction in Freeman and Prez and the other cops who are just going along with Daniels out of loyalty and just saying, hey, we're doing what we're told, doing our jobs. While you have McNulty along with Kima, who are clearly have gone rogue and are doing their own thing with chasing Stringer Bell and of course Prop Joe. So it finally comes to a head in this particular scene where McNulty, basically insults Freeman, saying that we're doing real police work, chasing a guy, by the name of Stringer Bell. You ever heard of him? So he really pisses off Freeman, and Freeman just gets to a point where he's had enough. Tells McNulty, you set fire to everything you touch, and then as you watch it burn, as you walk away, and tells him that, listen, Daniels got you off a boat, and this is how you're gonna pay him back. And you have McNulty saying that, I never expected to hear the chain of command horse shit come out your mouth. Go be a cop. They almost come to blows. And then Freeman just walks away, says he has nothing else to say, has nothing left to say to McNulty, and chastises Kima for going along with McNulty, considering how Daniels had brought her up as a young police officer, in his words, as a pup. So and then you see, and mainly McNulty is discussing in regards to Bell, his real estate, all those properties that he bought, that he and Avon bought up in season 1. And as McNulty and Kima are walking out, as soon as they walk out, you see Lester tell Prez to go check those properties. So Lester wants Bell as well. He just didn't want to give McNulty the satisfaction that he also is still has that itch to go chase Stringer Bell. Great scene, well performed between Clark Peters and Dominique West, who were tremendous in this scene. What were your thoughts?
I'm going to echo that it was a great scene and how tremendous that they were. Me and you might see this slightly different. So here's how the way I read that scene. So here's how I'll start it. The only other character that I've heard the phrase, you're a cancer, you watch things burn and walk away. The only other character I've heard language used towards like that is the Joker. So that's the type of mind, that's who McNulty is right now. Okay. So first of all, I disagree that everybody knew Quintel was a minor target and knew Bell was the bigger target. The argument was about the evidence and about bodies. What was happening with Bell and them, no bodies were dropping, Quintel bodies, the unit was about bodies. McNulty disagreed. So McNulty's on his own thing right now, on his own position. Everybody else in the unit is very clear what they're supposed to be doing. It's called their job, not what they want to do. And that's what McNulty's doing. And Freeman points out to Kima, rightfully so, Kima, what the hell are you doing following him? He's self-destructive. That's only going to lead you down a self-destructive path. I'll leave that alone. We'll come back to that many, many times until the ultimate end. So that's number one. The second thing is that like while McNulty and Freeman are like sparring verbally, idealistically, they are more on the same page than not. And so I do think Freeman, even though he looked like he was confronting McNulty in a space of anger, I do think Freeman, being the old head, which is what he was pointing out to McNulty, I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, son. And I do think he was using McNulty's zest to further poke the bear. So while simultaneously McNulty's wild and out of control and doing his own thing, and while he's doing that, Freeman is measured and playing the role of good soldier and doing what he's supposed to do, and then he's now using McNulty as a kind of a flashpoint to redirect towards Bell, which is, to your point, why at the very end of that scene, he goes to Presbeluski, go dig up those properties.
Yeah. I mean, they're on the case that they're supposed to be on in terms of Quintel Williamson. I just think that overall that this is even going back a couple of episodes when they blew their wire for that with the dog thing, with the dog fighting. I just felt like they'd rather be chasing Bell. But maybe that was just Kima and McNulty, as basically Kima and McNulty. Everybody else probably was content with just doing chasing the bodies. But
it's not about contentment or not. It's only if you take the position of McNulty. That's the only person where this feels different. Like this doesn't feel like the normal thing. McNulty is, as we know, gets locked in on somebody, and it's all about that. The characters keep saying that about him over and over again. The only person on this show who thinks not chasing the bodies is something to be fought against is McNulty. So If you take the position of McNulty, yes. But if you take the position of any other character, no.
So you have Coven's meeting with two guys who are discussing his new position, kind of, as he's coming close to the end of his career as a major. It's going to be a security job at Johns Hopkins, $80,000, great benefits, a seamless transition from his days as a major into this particular position. He One of the guy leaves, says he has to take a twinkle, and Colvin basically calls the dude out after he left and says, why can't you just say, you got pissed? Why he doesn't understand why a grown man has to talk like that. So they discuss, what this position is going to look like, and I think, again, Colvin, we see in the show in regards to when there's comedy. There's some underlining deep meaning, and I think with that, with Colvin talking about the dude, Colvin is a straight shooter, so he doesn't want anything he doesn't want to hear any type of bullshit. He's calling even on things of that nature, like just say you gotta take a piss, even that something like that will tick him off. But mainly, it's about this position that he's going to be taking. And we will see how this plays out. We will see how this plays out in later episodes. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is set up, but this is actually setting up a really huge theme, not scenes, not something that's going to happen. This is setting up a really huge theme in terms of, and I'm not going to ruin anything. So just the theme is, what are you willing to sacrifice, right? We've been talking about reform. Reform does not come without sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice? And so this scene is setting that up.
So you have, they show Cuddy, we go back to Cuddy briefly doing yard work. He's struggling to get to start the lawnmower. Quick scene, but we'll see how that plays out in a later scene with him and his supervisor. Bubbles, Kima, and McNulty. Bubbles lets Kima and McNulty know that Marlo is controlling the main territory. That Marlo's controlling the main territory. He gives them Marlo's, he negotiates Marlo's plate number, which gets him more money, and rightfully so. He's out there working for them. That's like a bonus. Get Marlo's plate number. He also lets them know that. He also lets them know, where the Barksdales, that he's seeing Barksdales, but the Barksdales don't. But the Barksdales don't have the main territory. He says Marlo, of course, is in control of that. Of that territory. So this is also a setup scene for later on in the episode with a couple of plot lines that we'll see. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I actually have a lot to say about this scene. So I'm about to construct one of my arguments. And so my argument is this: if the unit had recognized Marlo coming sooner, they could have stopped him earlier. And so this is exhibit number one. Because McNulty's so focused on Stringer, he can't see Marlo coming. Right. Because Kima is so focused on trying to be like McNulty, trying to figure out if she wants to put on the dirtbag cop role, skin for herself, she can't see Marlo coming. So this is exhibit A. This is why that focus of McNulty is not to be lauded. This really is why it's not to be lauded. He keeps screwing up, and this is the avenue he's screwing up. It's staring him right in his face. It's staring all of them right in their face. So this is exhibit number one on that. Wait. Then I have something to say about Bubs. But it's only exhibit number one. There's another one in this episode, and then I'll keep highlighting them as we go through the season. So this is not the finality of my argument on that. This is just the very, very beginning of it. There's another one in this episode as well. My second thing was going to be about Bubs. No, not about Bubs. It's about just the genius of the way that this episode is constructed and how this show is written. Like I said, this episode feels like it's about moving all of the new characters who are the reformers into different places, like really moving them. In this episode, we get to see Cut. We get to see who wants I don't want to say the what is he, the councilman now? What's his Carcetti. We get to see Carcetti. Of course, we get to see Colvin. But in this episode, we never see Marlo's face. But he's such a looming presence And I thought that was just very, very cool how they constructed it. So there's two scenes. One is about what the unit could have done if they saw Marlo coming, and then the second is how they constructed and made Marlo such a menacing presence in this episode. And this is actually where the mystique of Marlo starts. Like you alluded to him before, but up until this point in time, he's just another nigga on the street, essentially. This is where his mystique starts to build. All right, I'm done.
Yeah. So initially, Kima floats out this theory in that scene as well, is to Bubble saying maybe Marlo is working under the stringer. So that just tells you how lost they are in regards to Marlo's standing in the drug trade. So, and of course, Bubbles doesn't know. Bubbles is like, I don't know that much. He said he can't confirm that. Nobody knows. He can't confirm it.
Well, here's the clue. Here's the clue. What they could have keyed on, what Bubbles clearly says is, I don't know about Barksdale. The name that's ringing out is Marlo.
Yes.
That should say something to them.
Yeah. So you have that going on. Then you have Cuddy and his supervisor discussing, which really was one of the most powerful scenes in the episode to me. So he helps him out the lawnmower. We told you a couple scenes earlier, Cuddy was struggling with the lawnmower, the prime lawnmower. The supervisor comes out, helps him out with it, and he lets Cuddy know about himself and what he should do. So he says, I had an SL I had a pretty SL back in the day. I let that go a long time ago. I let that life go a long time ago. This right here, what you're trying to do, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. You're stuck here doing this job doing a job making, pennies on the dollar, making basically pennies on the dollar. But this is your reality right now. Now, again, giving Cuddy just a clear truth of where he's at in life, getting out of prison. And I believe now, without the supervisor even knowing this, that triggered Cuddy to go to do what he does later on in this episode. I think a very poignant scene. Somebody, a character, and this guy was a small time character that we'll see a couple times in this season, but he had a big major moment in his conversation with Cuddy, as he says he basically used to live the life that Cuddy used to live, with dealing drugs and being a part of the game. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, no, same. I mean, you're doing a good job of mapping Cuddy's arc out in this episode.
You think he triggered Cuddy going back into that life?
I think you're doing a good job of mapping it out. I think everything plays into everything.
So you have...
I think that first scene you talked about, now this scene, and then there'll be another scene.
So we get Daniel's imperilment. This is, of course, this is following... They are item now, Daniel's imperilment. So Daniel's comes in Perlman's office. They discuss Avon's upcoming parole hearing, in which she's writing a letter saying that, of course, that Avon was one of the most powerful drug lords for 3 years, and they brush off the fact that there's no way that he's going to get out. Like they don't believe. She doesn't believe. She says there's no way that he's going to get out in his first his first hearing on his first try. So she has that letter. They flirt a little bit, and then as he walks out, quick scene. But what were your thoughts on this particular scene?
Set up.
Cuddy. We see Cuddy as soon as he gets home from work. Gets off the truck. He immediately calls the number that the Barksdales gave him out when he got out of jail, and of course that number does not work. What were your thoughts? Quick scene.
Oh, set up.
So we go to the detail, McNulty, Kima, discussing Stringer and Marlo. Kima is seeking more information on Marlo. Kima is seeking more information on Marlo. Says she's going to go down to the Western to look him up and to look him up or to get more information on him. And again, this is a scene that it starts kind of not unraveling, but we start to get a better look at what what type of dude Marlo is after following this scene and in upcoming scenes as well in this episode. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is exhibit number 2. Did you talk about the conversation she had with the detective? Are you saving that for later?
No, we haven't got.
We haven't got there yet. Okay, all right. So then set up.
Bunk and Lansman. Bunk tries to sneak into the office without Lansman knowing it. Lansman recognizes him a couple minutes later and continues to, of course, ask him about the gun that he has yet to find. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, set up. Honestly, this is not even set up, to be honest with you. It's just a scene.
Yeah, no, that's not, they'll talk more about this. They'll talk more about this gun in further episodes, but it's not set up. So you have Kima and Detective Vernon discussing Marlo. So Vernon, apparently they almost had Marlo on they almost had Marlo on a murder where a witness was going to put Marlo in. The witness goes over the east. They bring him over the east side, and the witness goes back over the west side to cop some drugs, some hydro. And Vernon just says, could have copped the same shit on east side. So that witness, of course, did not make it back to the east side. He ended up with 3 bullets, 2 in the chest and 1 in the mouth. Remember that for later on in this season. And Vernon lets Kima know that he said in his words, this motherfucker Marlo is for real. He called him a spawn of the devil. Matter of fact, those are exact words. Called him a spawn of the devil and said he's definitely for real. As Kima gets more information about who and what Marlo is all about. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is exhibit number 2, and let me be clear. I'm not saying that the detectives in this world should be omniscient, like us as the viewers who know lots of different pieces of information. What I'm saying is the information was there for them to start thinking and turning their minds. If everything that's been built around the perception of Kentel Williams is true, which is that he's just a minor drug dealer that just is stupid enough to still be killing people in the wide open, then it's not only smart to be looking at the bigger picture, but it's actually absolutely necessary to be looking at the bigger picture and looking at all of the dealers out there as pieces on the overall drug game board. And so Kima just got a direct story of Marlo murdering a witness. Now, evidence and all of that aside, like that not being there, that's fine, but that should at the very least cue up something. It would. Like, these are very smart detectives. That's why they're in this detail. And that's why I'm talking about the laser focus on Stringer Bell being a flaw, and a flaw that the show wants to show the viewers in these characters, because the game keeps repeating itself because of the way that the system is designed and who they're designed to go after and what leads them to go after who and the people who are involved. And if the target of investigations are based off of personal, like who I need to go get, then that's a flaw in the system. And that's why this keeps perpetuating itself. And so the show wants you to ask these questions and wants you to think about it. So I know it's a show, and I know the characters are not supposed to do certain things at certain times because the show, certain things need to happen. I 100% get that. But I also think The Wire, as we said, often is such a smarter show than those things that it wants us to look at those questions. It wants us to ask, why are we not looking at and trying to identify the problems that are going on? And so each of the reformers in their journey within this season are identifying systemic problems of why the drug game keeps going on. So that leads us all the way back to that original scene that you were talking about. The reason why that officer is facing an onslaught from the public and cannot and doesn't have a defense is because there is none, because the system itself is the problem. And until the system gets fixed, then the problem will perpetuate itself. So the Wire wants us to keep thinking about that and talking about that. And these are two good examples within the characters of why the system keeps perpetuating itself. They're petty and they're personal right now. And that keeps their eye off the ball.
Yeah, I mean, Marlo is definitely a character similar to Carcetti that no one really saw coming.
That's why I keep saying no. They could have seen him coming.
They could have.
They chose not to. No, we can't take the characters off the hook. This was not a surprise. Like, oh, look, we have the scene just right there. He said he's the spawn of the devil. How clear do you have to be?
Yeah, no.
That this guy, he's real. He's the spawn of the devil. He's murdering witnesses. What do you mean they didn't see him coming? Yes, they saw him coming. They were told. Kima went to dig up information on Marlo. They absolutely saw him coming. They chose not to do anything about it. That's the difference. Or they prioritized Stringer because the better way to say that is they prioritized Stringer because it was personal.
Yeah, no, they definitely locked it on.
And by they, I mean McNulty.
Well, McNulty.
And Kima, who's just following around McNulty.
Right. But this is McNulty's journey. Right. So you have, speaking of McNulty, you have him meeting up with his kid and Elena, his ex-wife. His ex-wife attempts to get more alimony from him and as they get into an argument about what he was making, in regards to what he was making. He, of course, says, can't afford to pay can't afford to pay what she wants based on his salary, and the only reason that he signed those papers was the fact that he thought that they were getting back together.
Yeah, this is set up, and this is just further demonstration of how toxic McNulty is.
Yeah. I mean, just standing on his life dysfunction.
It's set up. It's honestly set up. It's fine. It's whatever. It's beating a dead horse at this point.
Colvin in the Western, he tells his officers that drug dealers, can sell in designated areas. Tells, of course, he has the designated areas set up for where the dealers can sell, and he sends his officers out to drive the dealers to those particular areas. But again, the dealers just are not buying this at all. A lot of them, many of them think it's either a trick or just are used to their way of doing things, or used to a certain way we talked about systems. They're used to a certain system, which we'll see discussed in the epigraph with Fruit in terms of what he says. But the dealers are not complying with the officers in terms of where moving to those particular designated areas. We also get introduced to Spider, who we will see become a vital character, ends up becoming a vital character throughout the course of the series later on in this series. So we get introduced to him. At the time, of course, we didn't think much of him because we didn't he was just a corner boy. So in this scene, we see that the officers, not the officers, but the drug dealers are not complying to the orders of one Bunny Colvin and the other Western officers. What were your thoughts?
Shut up.
So we have Kima and McNulty get back together to discuss Marlowe. She tells him the story that tells him about what Vernon said to her, and then McNulty actually was the one that speculated that he was working for Stringer.
He's not speculating. That's what he wants it to be. I say he's not speculating.
No, you're right. I'm saying you're right. It wasn't Kima. This was McNulty saying that he's under Stringer. So that was a very important distinction between the two of them saying that it was McNulty.
Not really, not right now, because Kima wants to be McNulty right now.
So McNulty's, makes it positive that Marlowe. What were your thoughts?
Set up. I mean, this is exhibit number 3, but I've laid it out pretty well by now.
So we have Prez on the order, of course, on the orders of Freeman. He goes in and checks for the Barksdale properties in terms of all the properties that they bought up. So he's he's doing some research on that. We'll see how that plays out in a later scene. What were your thoughts?
This is actually exhibit number 4 for me because you didn't get to when he talks about what properties he has. Yeah,
no,
right.
No.
Okay, set up.
Prez is going on that, doing that research. So no, they haven't discussed it yet. Bubbles and Kima. Bubbles lets her know. Bubbles gets real specific in terms of letting Kima know which specific corners that Marlowe has. He also tells her that Barksdales are kind of sprinkled among some other dealers at some off-brand corners or not the main corners, but not the main corners in the city. But he tells her specifically that Marlowe has the main corners in the area, and he says that his name. He tells her that his name is the one that is ringing out, not Barksdale's. He's very clear about that in this particular scene, and he also tosses a burner, which will be a major piece of a plot, of a plot that we'll see in the future. Tosses a burner out of the window that had no minutes on it, that apparently had ran out of minutes. So we'll see how that plays out. What were your thoughts on this scene?
This is actually exhibit number 4. That's right. We talking about this is actually exhibit number 4. Yeah, like you said, Bubbles was very clear on who's running those corners and why those corners are the best, and the top people would have the best corners. So that's kind of the easy equation to put together.
Yeah, and like she should have completely dismissed the fact that Marlowe was with Barksdale based on,
I'm not going that far. I'm just being like there were clues are there, and because of the flaw, like this is their fatal flaw this season. This is the details fatal flaw this season. Because of the flaw, because they're so focused on what's going on with Barksdale and Stringer Bell in particular, they're missing things. What's the word? They have tunnel vision, right? It's like a quarterback who stares down one receiver.
Yes.
They're staring down Barksdale, so they're missing the rest of the field. That's my point.
So you have McNulty goes to look for more information on Stringer. He lies to the receptionist, tells her that Stringer has issues with domestic violence, issues with women. She gives him some information not by paper, but off the computer, where he's allowed to look. Where she says she can't give it to him by paper, but she does allow him to look at her computer. So he gets Stringer's phone number and with Stringer's number off that particular or where he was going to school at off her computer screen, and you have that going on. You have that going on as he's locked into Stringer. What were your thoughts on this scene?
This setup.
So you have Herc and Carver. They continue to struggle to get dealers to move into the designated areas. This is where you have Fruit says the epigraph, why you gotta go and fuck with the program. The dealers are telling them, Herc makes a comment, says, what if we put a foot in your ass? And then one of the dealers says, at least we understand. So the dealers clearly are not, they're just not buying that the fact about anything about Amsterdam or about the free zone, and even after the officers explained to them that they would allow them to sell drugs in those free zones, the dealers just are not buying it whatsoever, and nor should they. To be honest with you, you've been selling drugs for years upon decades the way it's been going. With all of a sudden, a cop tells you you can go to the free zone. I don't think a drug dealer would believe that initially anyway. So. You hear the epigraph said in this particular scene. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, set up.
Of course, we know that Fruit is, of course, one of Marlowe's cornermen. You have McNulty and Stringer. Not McNulty and Stringer. You have Colvin, yes. Colvin. So Colvin gets frustrated. Colvin at this point gets frustrated about nobody moving to the designated areas. You see that he sees that they're empty. He, along with his second in charge, Lieutenant Mello. So Colvin demands some bust and says that I'm no longer asking. What were your thoughts?
Oh, setup. Yeah, this setup.
Bubbles and Kima. Bubbles tells Kima that the Barksdales and the East Side drug dealers are on the same corners, as he tosses a burner out the window. You can make a case that could be Exhibit 5, because the fact that the Barksdales East Side,
not Exhibit 5. That's not it. No.
Carcetti and friends. So Carcetti's with some old college buddies, law school buddies at a bar. He tells them that he's going to run for mayor. They laugh at him, and then he looks at a woman at the bar. We'll see how that plays out. What were your thoughts on Carcetti telling them that he was going to run for mayor?
Yeah, it's the laugh. It's set up.
McNulty and Stringer. So McNulty sees Stringer at a community college. Briefly sees Stringer briefly at a community college.
Yep, set up.
We get to Carcetti and Teresa D'Agostino. Teresa D'Agostino is a lady that he saw at the bar. Carcetti, of course, hustles his friends, tells his friends that they made a bet that he could get her. They made a bet that he could get her number, and it turns out that he knew that they went to law school together, so he hustled them. He tells her that of his plans to run for mayor. He wants her to run his campaign for him, and she says that he is not electable in the city of Baltimore because of his color, and we had that. So that's how that scene goes. So we get introduced to Teresa D'Agostino, who will play a major role moving forward in this plot line. What were your thoughts on their interaction?
Yeah, I mean, she's giving him the political layout of the land, and so she's giving the political layout of the land, and it is a realistic layout of it. But this is another version of like reform, and what the stakes. This is setting up the stakes, and the stakes are that he's going to try to do something that's impossible. How can he do it?
Yeah, she tells him, sleep it off, go home, sleep it off, and you'll come to your senses in the morning. But of course, we know that he's dead serious about this. Stringer McNulty, calls the number that he got off the receptionist computer screen. He calls the number, check for to see if it's to confirm that it's Stringer's number. Of course, and of course it is. Stringer picks it up, and McNulty hangs up, and that of course pleases McNulty. This is of course late at night, so he's been tracking Stringer the entire day, because Stringer had just left the class after when he gets into his car. What were your thoughts?
Oh, set up.
Bodie, Slim, and Cuddy. So if you remember the last episode, Marlo's crew beat the shit out of Bodie's crew. So since with that happening, they have retreated to some just bad real estate. So they're off the prime real estate that they were on, like right across the street from Marlo's crew. Bodie is completely besides himself. He's frustrated. He says, how we not gonna throw some hot ones at him? One ass whooping. We take one ass whooping, and we get put on this off-brand shit to where Pooh can't even grind with his crew. So Slim basically tells Bodie, calm down, keywords, calm down, String will take care of it. And then Cuddy, of course, once back in the game, tells him that he made the call to the number. They let him know those numbers only last for a couple of days. They basically ask him what you want to do. He says, Cuddy says, whatever pays. So, Cuddy's back in. Slim tells Pooh, let's go get you some chrome, get you a gun. And Cuddy recognizes Bodie from way back when, assuming that's just obviously before he went to jail, and knew his brother from as a not sparring partner, but knew his brother from boxing way back when, and kind of has a surprise reaction when Bodie tells him that his brother's been dead for years. And in the last part of that scene, they see the police rounding up corner boys, putting them in a school bus, of course, at the orders of one Bunny Colvin. So a lot going on in this scene in terms of Cuddy's reintroduction back into the game, and where the Barksdales currently stand in the drug trade, being on some off-brand real estate. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a good introduction for Cuddy going back into the game. The interaction between him and Bodie kind of gave us knowledge of like a little bit more background knowledge on Cuddy. That's why that's important. The rest of it is just kind of like it's twofold. It's a indictment of Stringer's kind of view of the game, and it is a statement of how strong Marlo is.
Yeah. Because Bodie was clearly frustrated by the fact that we're not gonna come back on him. We're just gonna retreat. And Slim Charles is playing the good soldier, waiting for Stringer's, waiting for we'll see what Stringer wants to do, is going to do. Of course, we'll see how that plays out. So you have Stringer and Clay Davis and a couple other real estate people discussing real estate properties as McNulty watches. Stringer takes a call as they takes a call as they're discussing those properties. And again, the key part, and this was a short scene, but the key part in this scene, or the key aspect of this scene is seeing. It's the first time we'll see Stringer, not certain one will be the last, but the first time we see Stringer and Clay Davis in a scene together. What were your thoughts?
So two things. One is this is the beginning. This is a setup, but it's a long-term big setup. It's a setup to one of the greatest lines in Wire history. So this is the very, very beginning of it. And then the second one is that was given a little bit more. Oh no! This is more about what McNulty is singing and kind of leading to the conclusion that that Freeman will be able to kind of like break down. So it's set up, but there's a lot going on in the setup.
Yeah, no question about it. So we get to Poland, they go to the school, they bring all the dealers, boy dealers, and mid-level drug dealers to the school. The gym, they're in the gymnasium. So of course it's going to be out of control. Most of these kids, first of all, most of these kids have dropped out of school, so they just need a space to bring them into. So most of these kids are drug dealers or have even
Keep going. Sorry.
A lot of these kids are drug dealers, guys that they got off the corner. Colvin is trying to explain his new actions, trying to explain his program to them. And he does not even get to it before a kid asks to use the bathroom, and then another kid asks to use the bathroom. So they try to run that game, and he had no. Kids get into a fight, so there's complete chaos. Even when the principal comes, shuts everything down. They clearly respect her. She calls out one student, tells him, "Yeah, listen, I know your mom. She didn't raise no clowns." They also let him know that I didn't see you in school today. So she has control over that standpoint. But as soon as she leaves and she gives the microphone back to Colvin, he tries to explain his plan. He doesn't even get into the beginning part of the plan because the kids again make a lot of noise and completely just out of control from that standpoint. So Colvin doesn't even get into what he's trying to do with the kids. He doesn't like that. He doesn't even break the ice. Explaining them what he's trying to do. At the beginning of the scene, he tells them that they haven't been doing what the officers he says, "You haven't been complying with us. You haven't been doing what we've been asking you to do." So this basically, I venture to say, was basically almost a waste of time, as nothing was accomplished from it. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's set up.
So yeah, the detail, and McNulty gets back to detail. He tells him, he confirms that he tells him that he got the number from Stringer, got a number on Stringer, and he finds out that Freeman has the same number. So Freeman during his investigation of it tells Stringer, or tells McNulty that this number is legit. This is a legitimate number. This is a business number, and Stringer, this is a legitimate number that he's had for a few months now. That he's making calls and taking calls on. So McNulty, asks the question, well, you think he's legit? And Freeman kind of, teases McNulty, well, probably not. Tells him probably not, but you're the police officer. You're the police. Why don't you go find out? So he tells Freeman. They get into a discussion about the Barksdale properties, and Freeman lets him know that Freeman basically says that we misread what they were going to do why they bought up all those properties. He thought that initially that they bought up all those properties to flip, but in regard, they just keep buying more. So he tells Freeman, tells McNulty, give you a week to dig up some more information. either dig up some more information or swallow your pride and rejoin this unit. And then McNulty acquiesces, and and they go from there. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is all about Stringer's view of himself. So this is the second setup to the greatest line in Wire history. That's gonna come. That's gonna come later.
So you have Stringer and Donette. Stringer attempts to smooth things over with Donette. Of course, we know throughout the course of this season that he's been refusing her phone calls. She's of course initially upset, saying that it is you don't have, they saying that you don't know what it's like to be alone out here. When the cops come to your door, she tells him about McNulty, shows him the card, and tells him what McNulty feels about the D'Angelo Barstow case. He of course bends up the card, balls up the card, and you can see the concern on his face in that scene when she brings up D'Angelo's name again, and you can see how he's genuinely concerned. I thought it was well played by Idris Elba, how he kind of freezes there when that name is brought up, and he sits her down, lets her know that nobody, based off the reputation of Avon Barksdale, that nobody would have killed D'Angelo, behind those walls. And then he tells her that he is no longer going to, ignore her, that they're going to be, back together. So he kind of, I think this was kind of similar to season 2 when he came at her, like he realized that he needed to stop ignoring her and kind of get her on the get her under control again, so to speak. So I think he's kind of manipulating her from that standpoint. Maybe not to the level that he did in that scene in season 2 when they first slept together, but it's close. What were your thoughts?
It's not even close. It's the exact same thing. You're correct.
Okay.
It's the exact same thing.
So you have and he also tells well, no, they haven't we haven't got to that point. We'll get to that point. So Bulk and McNulty are at the bar. McNulty wants to know why he's on Bunk's tab. And Bulk, of course, wants more information. Says he's trying to, of course, find. He has his own issues in terms of trying to find Dozeman's missing gun. Says that he needs Omar again. McNulty, laughs it off, and so he basically laughs at Bunk, and then they go to plot to get Bunk and the lady at the end of the bar, or trying to have Bunk try to talk to the lady at the end of the bar. So they plot and make up this story, or Bunk makes up this story about his mom being sick and what have you. And they do that. They do the reverse. Last time they did, this time it's Bunk. So it's showing you how bad they can be for each other. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Shut up.
So we see the end of the Stringer Donette. So Stringer walks out of Donette's apartment, lets Shamrock know that from now on that he's going to take her calls. And then we find a major, the beginning of what's going to be a major plot point. He says that he puts Shamrock on the receipt, says that you're going to be doing these receipts for these phones. So it's going to be between you and our man Bernard. So we will see how that plays out. That's going to be a major plot point moving forward. So he's no longer focusing on that part of business. He's kind of delegating that to Shamrock and a character named Bernard that we will see later on in this. We will see plenty of this character later on in the season. Thoughts on this scene?
Can't talk about it. You said it.
Can't, yeah. Well, I mean, no, we can't talk about it, but
No, we can't. Nope. Move on. Set up. You said it. That's it.
McNulty, Perlman, and Daniels. So McNulty is completely just wiped out. I mean, he's drunk. He comes to Perlman's door. Daniels is there. He doesn't know that in the beginning. He knocks on the door, of course, unannounced. Daniels comes up to the Daniels comes up to the door, not comes up to the door to see McNulty outside the window. He's with Perlman, and as Perlman doesn't answer the door, of course, as McNulty yells the name out, and then McNulty finally sees a car with police license plate, with the policeman's license plate, which he did not know it was Daniels. I don't think he knew it was Daniel's car. I think he knew it was a police officer's car. I don't know, not sure he knew that it was Daniel's car. He knows that it's a police officer's car, and walks away. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, he knows it's Daniel's car.
Okay. So we have Yvonne, Levy, and the warden, and also a couple, one of the officers that work at the prison, the same guy that busted Tillman. They discuss that Avon's going to be coming. Like Avon's going to be is going to be early, going to get an early release. The officer, of course, does not agree with it whatsoever. But the warden basically says, "Look, we had to. This is the best course of action considering the embarrassment of the prison would face with those 5 dudes dying back in season 2. And again, this is an example of the system being just completely fucked up. Like this, we talked about this earlier in the episode with the system, with how the system is messed up, and how that can just, and how that can affect the communities and things of that nature. Well, this is another example. You have this kingpin who is going to get out early based on good behavior, based on him identifying these murders that he set up, and on his first parole hearing. So I think they wanted to show again how the system is just, how the system continuously messes over, affects the drug game in a positive way, in a negative way, of course. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I mean, like, the difference between this scene and the other one is this is not a new idea. This was a plot point that was set up in season 2, and so they're working towards something big, but we can't talk about it right now.
Right. So you have Cuddy with Slim, Charles, Sapper, and Gerard. They're in the car. They identify that one of the Barksdale dealers, has been stealing from them. While they give Cuddy his gun, and he says, of course, the game didn't change. And of course, Slim Charles retorts, no, the game hasn't changed. It just got more fierce. Cuddy grew up on a revolver, and now they give him a gun that holds 15 bullets. So, Cuddy, of course, is officially back in. He has a gun now. And of course, Cuddy is also shows you, his smarts in regards to the young dealer. He says, if he's stealing, then he has to be stealing for a reason. Does he have a girl? And then they mentioned this girl that they mentioned that this girl that he's dating. He says, check the, tell Cuddy, of course, tells him to check the girl out. If she's wearing some high school girl wearing ice, and that will confirm that the dude is stealing from them. So we'll see how that plays out. But the main part of the scene is the fact that Cuddy is back in, is back in, has a gun, and also the fact that he, of how much the game has changed since he was back in regard to him describing what type of gun he had versus what type of gun that they give him. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. So a couple of different things. I need to go back to something really quick, but I'll talk about this scene very fast. I mean, this scene is set up, and I've been saying the word setup a lot, and the reason why I've been saying setup a lot is because there's a couple things that are at play. So I said to you we've been talking about how the Wire this season elevates its writing level. This is where it truly becomes a television show, okay, or one of the greatest television shows of all time. And so we got two kinds of setup. We got two different kinds of setup that's going on right now. All of the reformers represent everything that we're talking about. Talking about in the systems. That's what they represent. And so you can ascribe a lot of deeper meaning and a deeper level, kind of like that novel piece to those characters. The Wire obviously values that and values that kind of discourse. And so they wanted characters that represented that. Now, old school characters, particularly Stringer and Avon in this season, will represent something different. Bodie, Freeman, McNulty, Greggs, everybody that we've already known, they actually represent something different. They represent the status quo, and they represent how the status quo either elevates or fails. And we'll be able to point out differences in these seasons. But even more than that, there is a operatic notion that the Wire is trying to elevate its writing through these characters too. And so why there's so many setups is because they're setting up both of those different things. And so I separate it like this. The reformers are systematic. The new, like our old school players, are Shakespeare. Those are the differences. And so what they're setting up with Stringer and his organization, not even just to lead into it, because we've even gotten that thing, is something Shakespearean. That's what they're setting up. That's what they're setting up with McNulty. That's what they're setting up with Greggs. That's what they're setting up with Freeman. They are charting a different course. This is season 3 is pivotal in that piece. And then with the reformers, all of our new characters, they continue their dive into what's going on in the systems in the city. And so the Wire is becoming multi-layered and multi-complex. And so when I'm like set up, it's not set like I'm not just going like, oh, it's all setting up to the same thing. They're actually setting up really big ideas while also talking about, they're set up really big ideas in both writing and intellectual exercise, as well as setting up what their characters are going to do over a long period of time. Again, this is why The Wire is the best show in history.
Yeah, we there's a number, like most of the series that we've done have been set up series, and like when you try to do what they're trying to do, what they're not trying to do, what they are doing, when you go status quo versus performance, it's going like that takes a while to like.
Yeah, here's how I'll break it down. I'll bring in a pretender to the throne. If you haven't seen the end of it, damn you, you should have, and then get away from this. I'll bring in Game of Thrones.
Right.
Like what they would love us to believe is that everything was set up to show that Dany was going to turn at the end. Why everybody rebelled was because that's absolutely a lie. They didn't put in the time or the effort in the seasons before to make sure that pays off. Right. Everything that The Wire is doing, narratively, story-wise, beat-wise, character actions-wise, is setting something up later.
Yep.
Right? And then there's also Game of Thrones, by the end of it, had nothing to say about the show. The Wire has a lot to say about the human experience, how we live, what's going on in our lives. Game of Thrones jettisoned that by the end. The Wire will not do that. And so that's why it's multi-layered, and that's why there are so many different things going on.
So we go to,
but there are certain episodes where you can't talk about them because you'll ruin what's coming.
Yeah, you gotta let it play out.
Yeah, and so that's why it's just a simple setup. Just be patient.
Yeah.
More will be revealed.
Remember, this is we're episode 4, so this is
5.
No, this is 4. It's not 5.
This is 4. Oh, wow, see.
Yeah. 5 will 5 is a big one, but yeah, this is 4.
Yep.
This is the end of the first third of the season because there are 12 episodes. Which makes sense. It makes perfect sense that this would be the end of the first third of the season.
Starting to move the chess pieces around.
Right. So you have Daniels and McNulty at a bar. They meet up to discuss Perlman. Daniels basically said, I wasn't trying to wait for an opening. Says he wasn't trying to wait for an opening. Says that he should have told him earlier. McNulty says happy for you both. Don't have a problem with it. Happy for you both. And kind of joked about how loud he was at her door. And then Daniel says thanks him for making it easier. And we see Daniels walk out the bar, and we see McNulty continue to drink. What were your thoughts? First of all, did you believe McNulty?
I don't. This is not a meaningful scene. Real. I can't even pretend like this is a meaningful scene. Because what was the consequence of this? Right? Like what happens out of this? Does anything change?
I don't see any. No.
Yeah. I mean, like it was a scene that happened.
Yeah, it's not a big scene. It's not a consequential scene at all. It really is
not. Nope. There's no drama in it. McNulty says, "Cool," because he never claimed her. So what could possibly be the beef?
Right. Yeah. So we go to Cuddy, Slim Charles, Bodie, and a few of the other Barstow members. They had a house party. Cuddy walks around, sees people having sex, sees barking there, people smoking. They give Cuddy some drinks, some beers, and Cuddy mentions surprised Avon let y'all get y'all hands up like this. And Bodie says sometimes you got to. To the credit of the Barksdales, this house party turned out a lot better than season 1 house party. So I give them credit from that standpoint. No one died in this house party, and so they kind of learned from that standpoint. This was a completely different from the last house party we saw in season 1, but this is more about, to me, this is more about Cuddy and him just being introduced to a world that he just is not familiar with. Like even him walking through that party, he looks completely lost. Well played, well acted by Chad Coleman. He didn't look comfortable. Even and I thought the actor portrayed that brilliantly. He just did not look comfortable. So, what were your thoughts on this scene?
I see it slightly different. I think the scene was about Cuddy reorganizing himself to the light. The key statement, and you even said this one, is when Slim Charles says the game hasn't changed; it just got more fierce, and that's what he's seeing. And so he's just reorientating himself. The reason he was able to clock the girl and everything that was going on is because he knows the game. He knows the game. He knows this. It might look a little bit different. Instead of being 40s, maybe he had another type of beer instead of it being weed. Maybe it's cocaine or something like that. But like you said, this is Barksdale crew. This is how they party when they relaxing. This is nothing new, nothing strange, nothing different from that. What I do really, really see what you're talking about, and you're absolutely right. The actor is portraying this perfectly. Is his hesitancy. This is about him,
right?
And his hesitancy, like what the actor is portraying that you pointed out is that and that uncomfortable. Like, do I want to be here?
Right.
Is this the life I want to get back into, or is this the life I want to be a part of again? Like, is this good for me? So that's all that indecision going on the inside that's being portrayed.
And I'll say this, and this is how great the actor was portraying this. You did not know which way he was leaning into. To be honest with you, when I first saw this, he really does a good job. I mean, it's really kind of you can really see him going either way at this point. So I thought the actor did. I thought that the Chad Cole was brilliant from that standpoint. It's not like you're gonna say you never saw it before. It's not like you were saying like, hey, he's definitely not gonna be. He's definitely gonna go in this direction, or he's definitely gonna go in that direction. He kind of did a good job of staying in that in between, whether it could go. He could really go in either way. He balanced that. He definitely played that balance to a T. During this episode and really up until this point in the series. McNulty back at the bar. So McNulty is, the last person at the bar after a couple leaves. Of course, he was going to try to hit on the girl who boyfriend just popped up, and he recognizes that they leave. So McNulty is the last one at the bar, stumbling out of the bar as the bar closes down. Just giving you, some more insight, not even more insight, what we already know about McNulty's self-destructive behavior. Any thoughts on this particular scene?
Nah, you said it.
So we wrap up back at the Barksdale house party. As Cuddy is with Slim, Shamrock, and Bodie, a young lady comes up, takes him in the room, and he sleeps with two girls, and you hear, we see Bodie and Shamrock, not Bodie and Shamrock, Bodie and Slim Charles say he's home now as they kind of dap up, and then you see the episode. The episode ends on that particular scene. What were your thoughts on how the episode ended?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that statement says it all. They think they clinched the deal and got him back.
Yeah. So they. Did you see this episode as kind of like? I just thought about this. Did you see this episode as kind of like a recruitment of Cuddy? Do you think they were trying to just like?
They're trying to get him acclimated back. He's been in prison for 15 years. He's just coming back. They're trying to get him back into like what they do.
Yeah. We talked about themes as far as the theme that I had was about the truth and the reality. You see the reality of Marlo right now controls the main territory. That's just a reality, and the Barksdales are playing second fiddle right now. You see the reality of the fact that no one is acquiescing to Colvin's new plan as of now. So he has to deal with that part. And you see Lester give it to McNulty in that particular scene in regards to, who he is. Like, yes, you are about yourself. You are toxic. You are cancerous. You are toxic. So, and of course, we see Colvin at the beginning of the episode giving the community members the reality of what drugs are not going anywhere anytime soon, and this is how it is. So, a number of realities and a number of truths that were MC even Cuddy talking to with the supervisor about where he's at right now, and that probably leads him going to go back into the life as of for now in regards to his current situation, being a prisoner, basically being an ex-convict with not a lot of opportunities, and the easy play is go back into the game. MVP of Starting the War. Who's your MVP?
My MVP is Bubbles.
Yes, Bubbles, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's definitely. I didn't.
He clocked the entire
Yes.
game for Kima and McNulty in a few days. Yeah.
I had Cuddy.
MVP.
I had Cuddy as the MVP because I felt like he was a heavy. I just we talked about Marlo's presence. You kind of felt Cuddy's presence over the course of this episode a lot.
Well, Cuddy was in 90% of the scenes in this episode. So yes, you absolutely felt his presence.
So I had him as MVP. What about the Sardine Award?
Sardine Award goes to McNulty and Freeman.
Yes, I had one of them.
That scene was incredible, regardless of what was happening and all the different whatever. Just watching that scene over and over again, I'm uncomfortable. Every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, it's like watching, it's watching your friends fight. You don't want to see them fight. Like, stop arguing with each other. When I'm whenever you get me to my base, where you take me out of my analyzing space and just put me into I care about these characters and I don't want them to yell at each other. You've done a really good job. I get very excited with acting like that. When I get pulled in, I get very excited. So yeah, that's a hell of a scene. That's just a hell of a scene.
No, it was a great scene. I had Freeman as a
period. And just because it's just so satisfying, it's it pulls in all the emotions, right? Because I just have to talk about this scene now. Because it's you've been waiting for Freeman to say something like this to McNulty, because McNulty walks around like he knows everything and nobody's better than him. And Freeman is fantastic police, not good police, amazing police. So if there's somebody who can make McNulty heal outside of his direct supervisor, Daniels, it's Freeman. And nobody has more respect in that unit than Freeman. So you were waiting for it's just you kind of waiting for these two titans of the show to butt heads against each other, and they finally do. They deliver. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, they did a great job building the scene up. This was coming. This was coming. The last couple of episodes.
Well, damn building it up and all that stuff. It's just a great scene. Like everything in The Wire doesn't have to be complex and deep. That scene in itself doesn't mean a whole lot because nothing else really comes out of that. It's just two dominant actors going at each other. Just some things are just good. You just put them in because they're good.
Yeah, it was a great scene. It was a tremendous scene. Yeah, so yeah, definitely. So we are a third of the way through season 3. You are going to see now, these next 4 episodes, we're going to see some the pieces are being moved, and you're going to see. There's going to be some Marlo episodes coming up. We're going to unpack Marlo, Stansfield, and Carcetti. A lot of Marlo, a lot of Carcetti in these next few episodes. And of course, another character as well. But things are going to be moving now. The pace will definitely pick up moving forward. These first 4 episodes definitely did a great job at setting up basically the entire season. These 4 episodes, first 4 episodes set up the entire season, and now now you're gonna see a lot of movement. Moving forward. This episode is called Straight and True. Episode 5, Straight and True. So we'll be looking forward to that. As always, thanks to Rob Sapp for joining the program.
All right, sir. You be healthy, be safe. Everybody stay dry.
No question. That's good. Later. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Ril Dil podcast, The Wire Remix. This episode will be posted tomorrow. Recording this on Sunday, and you will see this episode posted on Monday. Have a great rest of the evening. I'm out.